I have no thought in this at all. I'm just talking out loud right now as I think about this. But how do you think that would work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me lay out the process, right? So let's
Mhm.
just play a hypothetical. This
Yeah.
is just
Hypothetical here.
hypotheticals.
Disclaimer,
This is not
hypothetical.
guaranteed. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So let's say we
Yeah.
sign a player, right? Let's say
Right.
Jeff, we're going to sign you, okay? And we offer you $500,000 for 10%, same
Mhm,
deal we've
mhm.
given our athlete. And then you go through the minor league system, and then you get
Yeah.
called up to the big leagues, right? Well, the investors in you are still holding. They're
Right.
in on your contract. Nothing changes with that. There's no dilution. There's no anything. Those are the shares that are associated with your contract. And with our contract, it vests really when you make it to the
Mm.
majors, and then we're getting 10% pre-tax of every dollar you make in the big leagues. Well, your first year you're going to make
Yeah.
$750,000. That's the first year salary for. And then you'll hit your second year. I believe it's like $800,000. And then your third year you're at 825, and then you're arbitration eligible. And then so we're getting 10% of every one of these years that what you're earning. But then when you hit arbitration, you can make, Juan Soto made $30 million in arbitration this year. They can be anywhere from minimum to 30 million, as high as you can prove that you're worth. And then you get to free agency, and then you could sign a deal like, name like Fernando Tatis, $341 million if you're a really good player for 10 years. Then we're getting 10% of that. And all of that is being paid via dividend to the shareholders of that future earning contract. Right. The way it's set up today, okay, the owners are holding the shares. They're kind of holding throughout the process. Our vision and where we want to take this company is being able to build an ATS, an alternative trading system, which is your secondary marketplace where, if I had shares in you, Jeff, and you signed a $341 million contract, I could see that the share value of what I am going to get over a $500 investment might be $28,000. And I may be able to then, which is what we're hoping, is be able to go to our marketplace, say, hey, I'm willing to sell these shares at the going rate, say it's $22,000. Then somebody who's just an investor could buy that, knowing that they're going to get, that interest, the difference over the life of the contract for the, as an extra dividend, extra payment. So
that's wild. 2024 is the year of the secondary market for everybody. Republic just rolled out their start engine. I'm sure WeFunder's going to try. They're going to get in there. Everybody wants that secondary market. But no, it makes total sense as you're watching probably both ways. You might be gambling on a player that go, I don't know. I don't think he is going to go much further, right? I'm assuming, can I get rid of these shares at some point? I'm sure it can go both ways,
Yeah. Yeah, because as we mature, we'll have more athletes at the higher ranks, and that's when things get super interesting.
Yeah. So, are you a portal platform? Are both? Are you a marketplace? How do you kind of describe then Finlete? How do you describe it?
Yeah, so we describe Finlete as a platform right now, and I think we're going to grow up. We're going to become a marketplace.
Yeah. Okay. No, it makes sense.
That's very, the game
cool.
plan.
So kind of what's your background? How did you get to here where you're working on this? Where's your starting point?
Yeah, so I've been doing startups for over 10 years. I've been fortunate enough to have 2 exits from companies I bootstrapped and started. And then when we started Meatlete, we were able to get investors to come involved, and Comcast, NBC, and some really great investors that helped us with that. And then when we pivoted, like I said, we didn't shut Meatlete down. We actually brought all the investors in on Finlete and then told them, hey, we have this better idea. Will you support us in this pivot? And we had to do a lot of explaining and explain the market, all these learnings we found. And fortunately, every one of our investors were like, we believe in you. This is awesome. Go for it. We're in. So we're able to do that, raise even more capital on this new idea of Finlete, and then it all came into fruition.
That's cool.
2.5 weeks ago.
And what is your sort of background? Is it CEO-esque, leading teams, building teams, developing, coding? What's kind of your skill sets for the company?
I'm really a biz dev, sales and operations person. That's really my strength. Before, I was in the startup world. I was working for a tech company that was heavily into
Okay.
SMS marketing. Before, like, all the CTIA and all these other government agencies regulated
Yeah.
it. It was just the Wild West, and we were working on different programs with Vodafone and other big corporate companies and Air New Zealand, and we were helping them with
Yeah.
SMS
And were you an
notifications.
athlete? Did you? Yeah. Yeah. No,
Real
totally
exciting.
exciting. Yeah. Yeah. No, were you an athlete? Did you play ball at all, or did you? How did you kind of, are you just a fan and got into it? But why the love of athletes and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. So I was really into wrestling in high school. That was my sport. I regret not playing football because I was so fast, but my parents would never let me. And they were like, "You are not playing football." So it was a bummer. But yeah, that was my biggest regret. But yeah, so I was really into sports. I mean, I've always been a huge San Diego Padres fan and Chargers
Yeah.
fan where they're in San Diego, and I love Notre Dame football, and I was just really passionate sports fan. And it's always been kind of my calling card with my enjoyment and what I
Yeah.
enjoy doing on my pastime
Yeah.
outside of my
That's cool.
family
That's
and
cool.
kids.
So what's like the thing right now that
Yeah,
kind of keeps you up at night? What's the biggest pain point? What are you like, all right, we gotta really focus down on this right now?
yeah, we're really trying to learn who our
Mhm.
customers are, right? Like we're trying to figure out who's willing to do this. And so initially we thought, oh, easy, sports fans will totally get this. Let's blast this out in these ad spends on that. And that's been pretty good. Like we've done well on that. But what was really been surprising is how many the actual
Mm.
interest from investors, like
Yeah.
alternative investors or stock investors, when they understand it and they see the data and they do their own due diligence, they go, wow, this is actually pretty interesting. And then they see our prospect who, we're sharing like these links, like he was just ranked the number one MLB prospect in the ACL Arizona Complex League last year, according to Major League Baseball. So, you know, seeing the due diligence, the data backing up why we chose this
Mm.
athlete, it's really been helping us with converting those investor customers. But to answer your question,
Yeah.
learning who our customers are.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, to some degree, minor league baseball plays into this whole concept better than, let's say, maybe at this point, than NFL, right? Or college football to NFL, because there's so much TV time, airtime, that a guy could basically maybe catch fire, right? And just be the talk of the town.
Yeah.
And it almost like a pump, like Elon Musk tweeting about it, right? Like, oh my God, this is the guy. He's on ESPN every waking minute, and then he just disappears, right? Where in this world, because of minor league
Yeah.
baseball taking such a long time, and it's right. I mean, most people say it's the hardest sport to kind of like get up
Yeah.
to the majors, to hit a baseball,
Hmm.
but there's time for you to kind of grow and watch your stock, right? Actually mature, grow. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
talking points. I mean, you're mentioning
Yeah.
Arizona League over here, and then there's this pickle league over here in the Dominican, whatever it might be, right? There's all of these different smaller leagues, but it allows it to fuel the
Yeah.
story and the narrative, I think, more than, yeah, he had a great bowl game, and he got a bunch of NIL money,
Yeah.
but now he's here. It feels like
Yeah.
that in an equity crowdfunding space might be too like up and down, as opposed to like, no, no, no. It's almost like, I mean, this player is a startup growing, right? Like he's
Yeah.
growing and growing and growing. So it's
Yeah.
it's, it's interesting how much this sport, maybe
Yeah.
hockey might play the same role.
Think about this, Jeff. This is an interesting one. We've been contemplating. We
Okay.
actually had a couple of meetings about this. Horse racing,
Yeah,
not the horse. Let's invest in the
totally.
jockey. And then every horse that jockey rides, he's getting paid out on. How fun would that be to
Yeah.
be able to say, like, go to the races and just know that whatever jockey, Diego Herrera, from Del Mar is riding on, you're getting a piece of. I think it's so
Yeah.
interesting, and
It,
I think
it
it'd be a
really is.
hit
And
as well.
it really is. I mean, it's like fantasy football or fantasy baseball on absolute steroids of like, to some degree, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, like, no, no, no. This is like,
You stole my line, Jeff. That's my
sorry, these
that's
things are
my
just
line.
happening
I
right
tell
now. I
everyone,
mean,
I'm
I
like,
did a little bit of
fantasy
research.
sports it's the worst
Yeah.
analogy ever.
No, I
But
was just like, as
yeah,
I'm talking to you, I'm like, man, this
yeah,
is like, this is wild, because it's just, there's so much. Well, again,
yeah,
I'll say this as somebody who works with a lot of deals. I don't have anything to talk about half the time, right? In the startup world, right? Or if I got a medical product, it's like, dude, what do you want me to talk about, right? It's